Greetings, my friends. My name is Teresa Salgado, and Sculpey's invited me here today to make cane with you. I've been on the design squad for 8 years, and it's been one of the joys of my life. Today's cane is a beginner intermediate cane that really anyone can make. It's got a simple color story and simple techniques to give you a complex result. So let's jump in. We're starting today with my favorite color, alizarin crimson. I've got 2 ounces of that and 2 ounces of fuchsia mixed together to make this gorgeous red. So that's 4 ounces of the red, 4 ounces of the white, and a 2-ounce package of 18 karat gold. They're all primo. And I'm going to cut myself some squares. I use this as kind of a measuring device for my blends. You can just cut it freehand if you want to. The Skinner blend was created by Judith Skinner in 1996, and we are all forever in her debt. I use it in every cane. So there's a couple ways to make a Skinner blend. It's probably 1,000 ways, because you can put as much or as little of each color in a blend that you want. But one of the most common variations on a Skinner blend is to have one side be offset, and I'll show you that. So those corners match up, right? They go together and they touch, and that's straightforward, and that'll make a really nice gradient blend. But when you have your quarter offset like that red one, well, you know, and the white one, and you cut them off, you create an area in the blend that is more pure color on one end. So you'll see my blends later on. You'll see one has quite a bit more pure white on one edge, and that adds a lot to the cane in the end. So kind of mash them together a little bit. That way they won't come apart when you go to put them in your clay machine. And I pinch the end that I'm going to put into the machine so that it doesn't distort as much. It's kind of a thick blend today. That's number 1 setting, which is thickest. And there's one pass. You fold it in this direction, put it down into your pasta machine in that direction. And you do that as many times as you need to make your blend the way you want it to be. And once you have that, you want to make a long strip. It's going to go into the machine lengthwise this time and make a big, long, in this case, floppy little strip. I used a number 5 on this. You go through the settings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I don't know, I probably should have stopped at 4. It would have been easier to handle. Wouldn't have looked much different. But anyway, that's a number 5. And I'm going to fan fold it. So you hear this method called concertina or accordion folding or fan folding. And I'm just making this nice gradient stack that's going to end up being the base of my cane. It's going to be the little foundation that I build the rest on. So you see how that doesn't quite reach? That doesn't do it for me. I'm a fussy monkey and I want things to be a certain way. So I'm going to stretch that out a little bit. And I'm going to take my little cane bender. That's my 1/4 inch. I've even got a thinner one. That comes in a set of 4 because I really need different size, rods to use with my Sculpey rod. So I go over that. Make sure that I get all the air pockets out of there. I've got a nice stack to work with. When I make the second blend, I'm not going to fold it and make a long strip because then I would have to cut that in half because this is going to be 2 jelly rolls. So you couldn't cut that long flat strip in half. That would take you forever. So you cut it beforehand, don't forget. And put it in then your machine lengthways like we did last time. And now I can make a couple of jelly rolls that are different from each other. This first one's going to have the red in the middle, the inside. And I'm going to use a little trick to make sure I don't have any holes in the center of my jelly rolls. Because that's just almost unusable. It's kind of hard to get rid of a hole. So when you make a little roll like that, you can stick it in one end. It doesn't have to be that big. You could make just a little tiny one. But it gives you a starter for your roll up, and it prevents you from having a gap there in the center. So disappointing. You can do it just by making a lip on the edge of your clay, and you'll see that later. I do a quickie like that, but it's good to have a choice. So you just roll it up as nicely as you can. And it really makes a nice combination of your colors that you've blended. All we need to do now is make sure it's smoothed out. Now you will probably be shocked at how much I've cut out of this video. But you know, I can fool around with this stuff for hours. I mean, it's truly frightening. So it's a public service that I have made this video short with just the facts, okay? So good, now I have one with the light on the outside, and I'm going to do it again. Put it through that way. Take it to number 4 this time so it won't be such a pain to roll up. And lucky now I have 2. So that gives me 3 elements. I've got my fan folded stack, that's going to be the base. I've got my gold and my white clays I'm going to use to form lines and to divide things and to make accents on things. So I'll start working with my stack by making an indentation. Making a little channel there where I can drop something. In this case, we're going to drop a little roll of the alizarin crimson in there, because every one of these components needs to be broken up in some way. And that's kind of key information. If you want your cane to have interest and look more complex, you can make these simple elements and then just make changes to the individual elements before you put them together. So see how I'm making that little swoop? I just want it to be pretty. I want it to be unusual, and I want to create a place to put other things into it. So there isn't an exact way that you have to do that. You'll see what it looks like and what you like it to look like. So there you go. That's how I like it to look. I'm going to add a little pop of red onto this base piece. And it's round, but I don't want it to just be a spot. So you see how I'm going to pinch up the end a little bit and have it be just a different shape. And that can be any shape. So the things that you're adding to your simple components are just for interest for the eye. That's all up to you artistically. I'm going to wrap it in some gold. I'm going to take that gold to about number 4. So it won't, really take over that section of the cane. And you make all these decisions as you go, and really that's the fun of it. And you could make this cane 10 times and make subtle variations and have it look like 10 different canes that are all coordinated. And that's one thing I really love because I'm a big bead maker. So of course, having strands of beads that are perfectly coordinated but different is very exciting. So you see I wrapped that in that number 4 gold. And I want to place it in there. But before I do that, I want to be sure that I put a line in there, because I'm starting to think now in terms of details. So I've got a swoopy red and pink thing, and I've got a red spot wrapped in gold, and then we're going to alter our other 2 pieces, our jelly rolls. But I want to really reinforce that pretty curve, and I want to bring more gold into my design. So maybe on your design, your background's black, or maybe it's white. But you want to make sure that what you want to see is what you place in there. I'm saving that scrap for my Natasha's. So pretty, that's why I was showing it to you. So that's trimmed off. And as I told you, I can fiddle endlessly, so I'm trying not to do that. That's okay. That looks good. Now I'm going to place this wherever I think it'll be prettiest, which happens to be right there. If yours was higher, if yours was lower, that's okay. Your cane's going to look a little bit different, and you might like it more. That's the only hard thing about teaching caning, really, is that there's so many things to do, you're not even sure what to tell people to do. I'm just showing you what I do. So I like it. And now we're going to add these. So before we add them, we're going to change them. I'm going to take this cane bender and make a channel. I'm going to kind of make it a little bit bigger, kind of a U-shaped thing, just because I like the way it looks. You know, you'll find yourself using motifs and shapes, colors sometimes, that just really please you. And to me, that's one of the most important things about cane making, because as labor intensive as it is, you want to love it. You want to want to do it and not have it be a chore. And that's the way you do that, is by making it exactly the way you want. So I've got my little roll of gold. And that's the other way you can make one, just by rolling up the edge. Just watch for the hole, right? I'm going to wrap it in white. I've made this cane many times, and I've made it in this color a few times. And it really needed more white. So that's why the second or third time around you make a cane, it just gets more and more interesting because you see more and more things that you can do with it. And you'll see in the end product that that white is going to make a big difference in this cane. That's number 5 sheet. I'm going to cut the edge off of it because I don't want an isolated dot in that cane either. I want it to be open-ended so that it can match up later with the other half of itself. So keep your eyes on that when you're putting your cane together, when you're making your pieces. Be bold about cutting into them a little bit, because I didn't want to see a whole bunch of wrapped dots. That's why I changed the shape of that red insert. That's why I cut a little bit off of this one. And that's why I'm changing the jelly rolls, because I could end up with a lot of round canes mashed together, but I think that's kind of what it would end up looking like. And you'll see it's not going to look like that. So that's good. I'm just smoothing that down because I don't want there to be any gap that I have to fill. I want it to feel smooth and appear smooth when it's joined with the other canes. Now we get to see how we want to put it in to our combination. So I reduced it a little bit, just stretched it out. It was easy. And I'm going to be using that other piece. It's going to be very important. And I brought it down to a size that, to my eye, is correct for this cane. See those lines? They got to be straight. Just try to keep them straight as you can. And yeah, does it have to be perfect? No, but if you strive for perfection, you're going to be a lot closer to that than you would have been. So you're always looking at your lines, trying to keep them straight so that later on when we cut it, they're going to match up. And if they didn't, guess what? Your cane would still be pretty. But that's what we're trying. And now we get to work with this one. And this is such a fun one. It's so simple and it makes such a cool effect. So I'm going to cut a wedge in this. Just make sure it's as even as you can get it. And I've got some gold that I want to put into there. So that's why we're doing this. We're making each little piece just look a little bit different, not just a roll by itself. And this really isn't a very complicated cane. You can imagine, how far you could go with all this altering business. It's a whole, art unto itself, right? So I'm going to pop some white in this too, because as I said, I found a lack of white in some of the last canes. I'm going to wrap that around there, but not all the way. It's going to be open-ended when we drop it in. So I'm not worried about that side too much. So I've got my tiniest cane bender, and I'm making sure that hole is nice and clean and even down to the bottom so that I can make my piece be really symmetrical. And you'll see how cute it looks in the end cane. It's just that one little interesting element. So once I've got it fit and I see that it's even end to end, that it's landing in the same spot end to end, just cut it down. And of course I save all those little pieces and make all kinds of stuff with those. Now I'm going to take my largest cane bender, that's 3/4 inches, and make a nice little bed for that pretty cane. Now we're getting ready to finish it. You think to yourself, Pandora, how are we going to finish it? It's not even a triangle yet. How's it going to be a kaleidoscope? Well, I'll show you. So it wants to be a triangle, right? And as I always say in my videos, the clay is not the boss of us. So I'm turning that piece sideways because I don't want everything pointing upward. So we have a little kind of wedge shape. We have the other half circle. So I've turned that last piece sideways so we have something poking out to the side. And that's really cool because that's going to match up with the other sides of the kaleidoscope. And it's really cool that we have all this made and we can just play with it. That's why I recommend that you make all your elements before you start. You sheet all your clay, right? Get it all in sheets. And then you make your elements and then you start to play. So I push that together. I'm just trimming it up lightly because that's going to be reduced. And those ends will be trimmed off anyway. Save all those pretty cuts for your Natasha beads. That's just so much fun. So all we need is one more piece of fill, which I just happen to have laying there. And that's the other piece of that original log that we put in the stack. And that's going to make the perfect little spot to fill that last area. And boom, there it is. It's got enough gold, it's got enough red. We got plenty of white up in there with those lines, It's just so nice. And the only way to make this into a triangle is to force it. And sometimes we do. I don't want a top on it. I don't want any more on it. It's exactly like I want it. And now I can make it any shape that I wanted. And that's why it's kind of misleading. People think, oh my God, I've got to make this perfect symmetrical triangle and what's going to happen? No, you don't. Just keep building it until you think it's really pretty and then make it into a triangle. Why not? I just do it like that. Now you're going to pinch it at the top. You don't want to go too fast. Okay. Take your time and bring it into a nice point. And look at all the goodies I have to play with later. So I'm going to check it out. And this is the point that it does need to be equilateral because I want to put it together, and if it's not going to fit. So I'm going to find out where my long edge is. We can pretty much see that. There it is. And I'm going to just cut a little bit off of that. I'm cutting off on the side where it won't make any difference, and I want to make sure that my triangles are going to fit. So I've taken enough bulk off of that edge there. I can bring it together now, make it pointy again. I'm going to see that little wound I keep healing with my thumb there. That's okay because I'm not gonna reduce the whole cane right now. I like to keep lots of different sizes around so that I'm not stuck with one thing. And I really never assemble a kaleidoscope with all of the cane because what if I don't want a kaleidoscope out of all of it? So eventually as I reduce this, which I'm doing now, nothing more boring than watching reduction, but that's what you do. You just keep doing it. You push it, pull it. I've cut a piece off now. And I want to play with this one. Now this is larger scale than I would normally work with, especially for jewelry. But I want it to be big enough that you can see. So I'm going to cut this in 3 pieces. Much easier than doing 6 pieces, by the way. And they're probably about as even as I'm going to get. And I get to put them together and get a little reward for all my patience. And you will too. You're much better off to make your triangles small before you assemble a kaleidoscope, because it's easier than reducing a whole kaleidoscope. But I just wanted to show it to you like this while it was still big. And that's what we've got. And those were simple components, really. So I hope you like that. I hope you want to do it. I know I do.